Hello guys, welcome to another video. This is the penultimate video for the Build Emacs from Source series. We've got 9 different lessons, mostly talking about whether or not you want to install Emacs from a package manager or build it from source, the auto tools, the dependencies, and the configure how Emacs really works to build itself, how the scripts work to build itself. You can think of Emacs as a little robot, and let's say we send that little robot, that processor chip, to Mars, and we ask it to sort of turn itself into a robot. So what does Emacs, what does it do? It starts reaching around to find out what resources are available, what can it find on the operating system or on Mars in our example, and then it starts building itself piece by piece. It's putting on some arms, it's putting on some legs, putting on a jetpack, it's adding some wings, and it's going to turn itself into this incredible robot that we know as Emacs, that we can talk to, we can communicate with it, we can ask it to go to our desktop and open up a folder and make us a file and, you know, talk. It's got AI integrated with it. So all these wonderful things that we can do, but first we have to get this program to build itself. We have some specific customizations. We've got to get those dependencies on the computer system. We use some configure options, and we install the program. That's how we go ahead and do a full Emacs build. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're just going to go right ahead and build it. So stick with me throughout this video, and you'll see how to build Emacs from source on Ubuntu 25.04 in 2025. So the quick instructions, the install instructions, this is everything you need to know. If you don't want to watch this video, you don't want to do the install with me, you can just go ahead and follow these instructions to install Emacs on your own system, to build it from source on your own system. So the first thing you're going to do is sudo apt update install GNU-PG and area2 or wget or curl. You'll install those programs. Then you're going to make a directory, a local .source directory as well, change into the .source, and you're going to download these files. You want to download the source files, the signature, and the keyring, and then you can verify the keyring. Keep in mind, these are wrapped on the line, so this is all one line, and this is also all one line here as well. So you verify the keyring, and you're going to put these in your shell, and then you extract the archives that you've downloaded. Once those are verified, if you've got a good signature, the verification succeeded. So the quick dependencies install. So let's just turn on some highlighting here of the text. So we've got the sudo apt install y to install. The y argument says don't ask for confirmation. This is everything that you need to build Emacs. These are all the dependencies. You put these on Mars with your robot, and it's going to piece together a great Emacs installation. It's going to be able to build you a home. It's going to be able to talk to you. We're pretty much giving it everything it needs here to build it. So you can take this, snapshot it, write it down, put this onto your system, and you're good to go. So let's go ahead and we want to turn the toggle back on after, get back to that slide actually. This one is the quick configure. The configure, again, we do this in that directory. We're in the src directory where we downloaded the files. We added the dependencies. We go ahead and we build Emacs. We're giving it a prefix argument, and what that means is that we'll go ahead and build Emacs for Wayland. This is the with pgtk option, gives it Wayland, and we'll give it a little bit of boost in terms of the GCC, the disable the GC mark trace, 5% boost. So we go ahead here and we build our Emacs, and you're pretty much good to go. The next part is that we have to do the installation. So we do this inproc in our shell to find out how many cores we have. This will speed up the make process, and then we do make -j, let's say 16 or 8, and that's going to make your actual program, builds the Emacs into an executable, and then you do the make install program, and that will install Emacs onto your computer system. If you did not use a prefix argument, it will install it as your default Emacs system on your shell. It will give you the shortcuts. If you use a prefix argument that's different from the default, it will not install, it will not become your default program, so you may want to do that. So a quick test, you could start it up. This is a home Ubuntu, assuming that we've got Ubuntu as our username. You would go ahead here, you would just start up Emacs. We've got some arguments that we could use once we built it. We could do the QQ, load without an init or a splash screen. You can set an init directory where that .emacs.d with all your user files is. You're going to learn about that in this course, and we get you from 0 to hero as a user of Emacs within just a couple of months. So here you go. You can also start Emacs with the .load directory if you want to configure your shortcut just to move directly to the early init file. So here we are. For this course, it's a prerequisite for this rest of the tutorial here to use Docker. You actually don't have to use it. You can just follow the same things that I do in the Docker container where I'm installing Ubuntu 25.04 and using a shell. You can do that on your regular shell on your regular computer system. So you do not have to have Docker, but if you know about Docker and you want to use it, this is how you can install it. So if you don't have it, here are the instructions at Ubuntu 25.04 for Ubuntu 25.4, or at least these are the instructions for Docker or Ubuntu. So you can go ahead and you can follow those instructions. This is what the instructions say. Keep in mind, again, this is one line, so you do all of this. Remove your old installation files. This one, you add the key ring, you give it some permissions. Again, look at the lines here, and then you download the docker.asc, and then you give that some permissions as well. Here you're going to create the source files, the sudo nano. You're making a docker.sources that's going to create that docker.sources, and you're going to add the PPA. That might be jammy if you're using the LSB stable release. It would be plucky if you're using Ubuntu 25.04. So then you go ahead, you insert and you save, and that gives you the PPAs on your system. Sudo apt update will update to ensure that your system has the Docker, it can get to the Docker PPAs. And then here we go ahead and we install all the Docker programs that you need. That'll pretty much get you good to go with Docker. It's installed on your system. You want to verify it. Sudo system status Docker. If it's not started, then you do the systemctl start Docker. Okay, so you've got Docker on your system. It's a daemon. It's running in the background. It's started. You should be able to access it from the path. So what we're going to do in this video is we're actually going to make a Docker container. We're going to do that in an eShell. I'm doing this in eShell because, you know, typically you would be doing this. You would be doing this in your regular shell right here. You know, you could do this right in this is Zish. You can do it in Bash, any kind of Bjorn shell, or you know, you probably wouldn't do it in a Git shell. But the only reason is that Git doesn't have maybe the programs that you want on it, right? So we're going to be creating this Docker container from eShell. It's the same as this. It's just an eLisp. So let's go ahead and run this command. So what does this do? What does this command do? Let's also wrap the text and add some lines here. So you can see this is all one line. I've just wrapped the text at the edge of the screen. So this is Docker run. It gives you some interactivity. We have a name argument here. This is the name of the container that we're going to build, and we're going to give it these arguments, these E arguments. These are some arguments which are basically saying you can use the Wayland display. So this is, I've got a Wayland display on this computer system that I'm using, and we want our Docker container to be able to access the Wayland display. Now we're going to specify the image that we want, which is Ubuntu 25.04, and we're going to open that image with the command the bin bash command at the end of this. So we run this, and this is actually going to go and download Ubuntu. And it says it's actually unable to find it locally. Pardon me. So it's pulling Ubuntu down onto our computer system. So it downloaded this Ubuntu and it logged us in here. So we're actually in the root of our Ubuntu installation in a Docker container. Purely in the root, there's nothing installed on this computer system that we're looking at. We've created it. It's running in a container on our system. There's nothing in it, right? So we're going to want to install some dependencies here, but we can't do that. We have to actually give it a PPA so that we can install the dependencies. We can't use nano, so we're going to use cat, and we're going to install these dependencies. So go ahead here, and then we add this. It's going to add the plucky updates. It's going to add the Ubuntu sources, the ubuntu.sources file. We added the ubuntu.sources file. What that does, you can read this. I'm not going to read that, but you can read it if you want to know a little bit more about cat, EOF, and how that works, okay? So this one is install the programs. Now that we have the repository, the PPAs, we can go ahead here with a sudo apt update. It says actually we cannot do that because we don't have a sudo installed yet, but we do have root access. We logged into our container with root access because we don't really care too much whether we're logged in as a user. Typically, creating a container, we would make a user and then we would log in as that user into that image as the user, but we're going to be accessing it as root here. Okay, so we're going to install some programs, and this one says certificates. I actually think that is maybe I had it written down as certification before. Apps transport, you can see if we go back to the slide here, app transport is going to give us HTTPS so that we can actually download these securely. And area 2 is going to help us download. We're going to install some of the programs here. So let's go ahead and install these programs. We'll say yes, install the dependencies, and this is Docker, which is building us an Ubuntu 25.04 system so that we can build Emacs. We want to have some programs on our system. We want to make sure here that we got everything installed, and I think we probably did, because I did this before actually, and it was I misspelled the certificate, so I had an error in the installation process. So now we've got the programs that we need. We're good to go. We're going to build Emacs from source on Docker. First thing we have to do is get the source files. So what are we looking at here? Well, let's change the directory. Actually, we can turn off the debugger. We'll start with turning off the debugger. And we'll actually change. Pardon me. I think it's time to drink some water. Always better to have some water when you're doing a tutorial. Okay, so here we are. We are on a Docker. We're on a Ubuntu 25.04 build in a Docker container, and we're going to change directory into the user directory rather than the root directory. The user directory in our container here is called Ubuntu. I prefer to do things in the user directory. And then we're going to make a couple of directories here. We'll make a .local directory, and we'll make a .src directory. Your src directory, which we want to change into, that is the directory where typically we're going to be building, and I know it's actually terrible here that it's right down at the bottom of the screen and the font isn't very large. It's because there's a really big prompt here, and I'd like to, if that prompt were a bit smaller, it would be better. But what we're going to do instead is we're just going to split the screen here so that you can see, and then I'll increase the size, and we've got the text wrapping. So I'm going to see it here. It's going to look a little odd. Look at the line numbers over in the side here. And the other thing that we can do as well is we can turn back on the toggle keycast header mode. So you can see up at the top here any of the arguments that I actually do put in, and what is it we're doing here. Because we're in eList, we're in Emacs, so we're using the Emacs functionality. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to download these programs. We're in the .src. What we do here is we just follow the instructions that we did before. So we go ahead, we download it. We notice that it's downloaded those source files. It's a little slower because it's downloading them into a Docker container. And here we're going to download the detached signature file. So we go ahead, we download the detached signature file. Maybe we can, make the font a little smaller. And we'll download this this keyring, the GNU-PG keyring as well, into the directory, the .src directory. So we've done that. We should have a keyring. Here we have the keyring, we've got the detached signature, and we have the compressed Emacs release tarball for 30.2. We want all of those things. Now we're just going to go ahead and verify the tarball. So we go ahead, we do this verification, and we did not get the verification. And I think that's because there's either a typo in there, possible that there's a typo, or there is some other reason why we didn't get that verification. but I think if we just do this again, it should work. Okay, so we'll grab this here, not too much of a problem. We'll just put that in and we get our good signature. There it is. It says good signature. That's what we want. All we need to know is that we got that good signature and we've used the sig file and the GNU public keyring to verify that we got the files that we asked for. We asked for the files, we got them, they weren't changed up in the process. So now we're going to talk about a minimal build here. And so the reason I'm in a Docker container is I want to illustrate to you the difference between a minimal build and a full build. We're really talking about that robot reaching around for the resources. So we're going to give it some of the resources and we're going to see what happens. So here we're just going to install some of the resources into our Docker container. And again, this is going to take a little while, but let's have a look here at what we're installing. We are installing the build essentials. That's make, that's configure, that's the programs that we need to build the software. We are installing our libgc JIT. GC JIT is going to give us native compilation. We've got our GNU utils is going to give us things like HTTPS from within Emacs. We've got our compression. That's for compressed libraries. We're going to be needing that for building Emacs as well. In terms of the pkj config, this is really going to give our robot the ability to look around on the system and find those files. Lib in curses, I believe that this is something, and mail utils. We want both of these. The mail utils, we don't need to have mail utils, but we're about to look at that. libgtk3, that's our big program. It brings in our windowing system and a lot of dependencies, like 256 programs or files that it brings in. This is some libxpm, which is some X windowing, fonts, icons, and of course we've got a GIF program. Emacs is going to ask for these two. That's why we include them. So here we've got the mail utils. Again, you don't need the mail utils, but if you install it, you've got some directions here that you can install. Okay, so I'm going to go with choosing a location. This is mail utils. Again, we don't really need it, but we will go ahead and we'll choose America. And then it's going to ask us for a region. And again, I think we could go with Los Angeles. I can't actually see all of the regions here, but we can pick one of these regions. I don't know. It doesn't really matter too much. Let's go with the region. I actually remember this section very well. Install the region. We want, California. We'll go with Vancouver, 152. And then the time zone, we will go with California. Los Angeles, I think, is the time zone we want. So which one is that? 86. Let's go with 86 here as the time zone. 86. There we go. 86. That's our time zone. We don't need to worry about this one. We'll go with that. Should be good. No configuration. We'll go with 3, the smart host. And we want to have some email. So here we'll set this email to localhost, a local domain. That should be good enough. We'll just put that in there. We'll remove the syntax highlighting that was included in it. Let's see if it takes that. It does, and we'll put blank for none. So we're past the mail utils. Now again, because I use MU4E, we are going to be using the SMTP mail send it. We do not need these mail utils, but Emacs asks for it, so I go ahead and install it. And now we're jumping ahead here. Emacs is installing the dependencies that we need, but here we've got the configure, and this is for the minimal build. Keep in mind it's a minimal build. The minimal build, the reason it's a minimal build is because of our dependencies. So if we go back here to the dependencies, you can see we've just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 dependencies. That's why this is a minimal build. There's a lot of dependencies missing. The dependencies are going to make it the full build. So we come back here and we can actually, we can look at what we've got here. we can go back to the top of this, and if we wanted to actually get back to the top of this, we would look for a sudo apt install, sudo apt update. And so this would give us kind of what we see here. So in terms of the apt transport, we did that. We was going to install these. These are the dependencies that it has to install. So there's a lot of these dependencies, and a lot of these dependencies are for the GTK. Once we get to the GTK 3 dev lib GTK3 dev is pulling in a lot of dependencies here. And that's what you see in all of this script, is all these dependencies being pulled in, and there's a lot of them. And so, this is it here. This is the GTK, the lib GTK-3-dev library, and this is what it builds. This is what it brings in, and these are the dependencies that are going to give you a system. But this system, unless we use the with pgtk argument when we configure, it's going to build us an X11 system. And that is what I'm going to be showing you when we do this configuration option. Right here, we're going to configure, and we're going to get, on our build, we're going to get an X11 system. Now, the reason I'm actually using with pgtk, we're actually using that. This is configured for Wayland. Let's do the first one. This is the minimal build. I think we're configuring it for Wayland. We could configure this as well for X11, but let's configure it for Wayland, the minimal build. We'll go ahead and we'll do that. I believe I've configured it for X11 before. We have no such directory because we need to actually move into the Emacs directory. And we can also see, I don't believe this is actually refreshed. If we did extract the Emacs directory, we extracted it. So we should be able to just, change directory into there. And it says there's no such file or directory. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we did not extract it. What were the arguments again? I think it's XF. I think that's the arguments. So really, we should be able to extract this. We verified it, but we didn't extract it. So let's see what happens if we extract it. It says the tar command, the Emacs 30.2 tar gc, the command is not found. So that is, maybe I've missed something here, possibly. Let's come back up here and just look at that extraction part where we wanted to do this extraction. We should have those files in here. This is what we wanted. We need the Z argument. That's right. The Z argument will give us find the GC, and it should give us an extraction. So now we can go ahead, we can look at this list here. We've got this Emacs 30.2. We should be able to just go ahead here and, my Emacs 32 command is not found, of course, because we want the actual change directory, so we can change directory into it. And one of my functions is not working, but don't worry about that because it's not a problem. It just means I have to actually copy the region rather than just doing it with the expansion. So here we go. We've got the site list. We've got all of our files here, and we've got the src directory. That src directory is where we're going to be building Emacs, and we have the configure script. So we can move ahead here to our configure. We've got our dependencies installed. This is our minimal build. We're going to configure this for Wayland. So let's go ahead and let's do this configure for Wayland. And again, we've got some arguments here. So what are these arguments? We talked about these in the last video. This is Wayland minimal build. We've got with pgtk, which is what makes it Wayland. We've got with native compilation, which speeds it up. We've got disable gc mark trace, which is giving us a little bit of performance and trading off some debugging. We're using flags, C flags 02 instead of 03, so that's kind of stable, not too aggressive in terms of the optimization of how fast our Emacs system is going to be. We've got March native, which includes March native is basically saying optimize for our CPU. And the other argument that we're not using, which is kind of baked in there, would be if we wanted to optimize for a lot of CPUs. So we're going to optimize exactly for this CPU. And we're going to do this format frame pointer, which is again going to trade off some debugging in exchange for a little bit of performance, and this fnomath error is going to give us more mathematics, so it's going to make Emacs sort of faster at doing things like square root and log. Those are our configure options. We're going to run this configure, and Emacs is going to look around for the resources that we installed on the computer. And it's going to use those resources to decide what kind of build it's going to get. So let's go ahead and run the configure, and then we'll take a look at the script that we used to run configure. You can see it's doing its thing. It's walking the factory floor. It's checking to see whether each one of these files exists, whether the dependencies exist, and I did that pretty fast. We are doing a pretty slim build here. So let's actually move back up and look at the configure option itself. Just bring us back to where we put that option in. I think we have to move forward to configure here. There we go. There it is. So we're right at the top, so we can see what configure was doing. And maybe we can unwrap the text on this and just kind of zoom in a little bit so you can see it. Okay, so we started running configure, and you can see here it's checking the host. It's looking for whether or not we have a C compiler, whether the C compiler works. It says yes, because we installed Build Essentials. It's going through whether GCC and CC understand. It's got all the instructions here, and you can kind of read what it's doing. It's going through a lot of these files, and it's configuring them all. And you know, that's sort of like the robot grasping around on the computer system, finding out what dependencies are there. You see, it says, does the machine have a sound card? This is a Docker container, and it's going to ultimately come up with a report for us. And it's that report right here which sort of sums everything up. You can see it's got the compiler options. You can see it's using a PGTK, which is going to default to Wayland. It's got a GTK3 toolkit. You can see it's not using Athena. It's not built for Android. This is actually outdated. If your system needs that, it's included automatically. The JPEG, the TIFF libraries are there. It's not using an X system. It's got a GIF library. It's got a PNG library. It's missing some basic functionality. For example, SVGs are not there. Doesn't have database interaction. Doesn't have extra colors. We don't need the image magic. And this API for images, you don't have to worry about that. Again, that's a sort of outdated, I think. It depends on what system you're using, but it's not that modern. Support sound, yep, it's got it. Dbus, yep, it's got it. LG Conf is a trade-off for G settings. G settings is the modern system there. We want that. Yes, it's got it. Access control lists, maybe very specifically if you are using Fedora, you would want to add that. I'll show you the library for that. Linux, again, this is some more controls for Fedora. They must have been included in one of the libraries that we installed. GNU utils, good to go. We've got that. HTTPS. The XML2, nope, we don't have that. We have HarfBuzz, which is our multilingual support. If we're using an X system, we would need to have installed these two programs here. The dependencies for these two. This is the open type fonts, and this is for the international language. But we have HarfBuzz, so we don't have to worry about those. Those are mutually exclusive. Systemd, we've got that on the system. We've got the zlib compression, module support, the old scroll bars if we ever needed them, the X widgets. So we're pretty much good to go here, and we can actually go ahead now and we can start this program. So let's change directory into SRC and have a look in here. We should be able to just go ahead and launch Emacs and see what we get. It should use the Wayland compositor. It says there's no such thing as Emacs in there. So let's see. I think there actually is. No such file. I don't even see an Emacs. Well, that's because we didn't do make install. So we want to come back here actually. And we could do make. We could also do improc. See what we have. We've got 16. And then we could do make J16. And that should go ahead and make Emacs. So this is going to take a little time. This is like the actual building of the robot. So the robot now, it knows where all the resources are. It's found what it needs. It's lined them all up. And now it's like building itself here. It's putting on an arm and a leg and adding some brains and all kinds of things. Now, keep in mind when we're talking about an Emacs, sort of the default build, this is more like the frame of the robot. You can think of the packages that we're going to add to Emacs, and there are hundreds of them. These are like the things the robot can do. It's like we're going to give it a computer. We're going to give it wings. We're going to give it lots of like go gadget Emacs robot is what we're going to do here. We're going to, and that's going to be the later part of this course where we start adding the functionality that enables us to talk to our computer, that enables us to have a YAS snippet system, enables us to build web pages, enables us to do all the functionality that makes Emacs amazing. We still have to add that. We're just building the core system here. And now we should be able to actually change into the SRC, or we could just directly build Emacs from here. And this should start up an Emacs program in the Wayland compositor. And you see it starts instantly. This is here installed in Wayland. And we want to look at the features that are installed on this system, because if we look at those features, we will be able to see the difference between the minimal build and the better build. So let's look for that. I think I have that in here somewhere. Then we'll come back and we'll just add the other files to do a little bit of a better build. So let's look at this features program here. This is actually a function, an elist function. So we cannot copy this into our Emacs program. This is running from within a bash shell, which is within our elisp shell. And it has access to the Wayland, but it does not have access to our clipboard. So we can't really do anything with that. But what we can do is we can open up a Scratch buffer. We can actually, I think we can run eShell from within there. So we could do like this. We could do metax. We could do metax eShell, I think. We'd be able to do that, right? Yeah, so there we are. We are in an E shell, which is in a bash shell, which is in an E shell. And what we're going to do here is we're going to cat out some text, all right? We'll cat out some text. E shell does not support input redirection. That's not very good because we wanted to be doing that from a bash shell. So this is where it gets interesting. Because let's just kind of open that up. It's going to keep asking us for that until we don't. So we'll get rid of that. I actually don't have the configuration file, so we're just running with the basics here. So what we want to do is let's open up a bash shell. Okay, so this is really exciting. We are in Emacs. We're in a Docker container. We are interacting through our eShell. Through our eShell, we logged into a Docker container on the bash shell, and then we created Emacs, and then we logged into Emacs, and in that Emacs, in the bash shell, in the eShell, we opened up another eShell, and now we're launched a bash shell. So we've got like 4 nested shells here. And here we're going to run our cat command. And that should actually do it. So now we want to get out of the bash shell and back into our E shell. So we want to do something like, CC, something like that. But we're still in this bash shell. Didn't really get us out of there, did it? So I don't really know how we get out of the bash shell. To tell you the truth, maybe we could just type exit. Okay, so now we're back in E shell. I'm pretty sure this is E shell, and we should be able to see what we've got going on in our computer system here. And what I just did was I created a bash shell in Emacs 32 and I made a text file, okay? So we actually want to open that text file up. So let's do this. Let's close this shell from within Emacs and let's do dird. We'll do dird. And we are going to look for the text file that I just created. I created a text file in here and it is called show features. So we'll look for show features. We'll see if it's actually in here. If we have show features in here, then it actually worked. We could actually do that. Maybe we could do that code show features code. We opened up the bash shell so that we could paste into the bash shell. We're trying to get this code, this features code, into this Emacs distribution here. But I'm about to bring us back to our directory because it appears that I haven't entirely succeeded because I don't actually see the file here. So I'm kind of looking for that file. So we were in a bash shell, but where did the bash shell open up? That's the thing, right? So it opened up in here. Maybe we were in this src directory. We are looking for a txt file. I don't see the txt file. And here we are looking for a txt file again, and I don't see it. So that part didn't work. But here we are. We didn't get a look at the features. We kind of wanted to know which features we had so I could show you the difference between the features, what our build system was like. But we're just going to close that off, and let's go right ahead and install kind of a more robust Emacs. So we'll change the directories here. We want a bit of a more robust Emacs. We're in the .source file. We want to change back into our .emacs file. So we were in the spot where we wanted to be here. We'll pop back in there like this. We'll change directory into this one. Now we're going to do a different configure option. We're going to do the configure option that gives us the more robust build. So we're going to install some added dependencies, and we'll see what we get here. All right, so we'll install the added dependencies, and this is like extra dependencies. It's going to give us a more robust build. What we can really look at is the manifest that configure gives us, where we can check and see how it's going to have those additional features that Emacs is going to build with. So here we have done that configure. We've done the additional install of the libraries, and now according to our script, it's got all these extra dependencies that are around it, and it's making itself a little better. This is a better Emacs build. It's a little faster. It's got a little more extra support. Got some image support, a little bit more of a robust build. So we want this. We can go ahead. We can test this right out here. Launch it up. Launch the Emacs. There it is again. Now, I actually didn't, get to the part where we got to look at the features within Emacs. This was the code that I was looking at that would do that. This is the code that we were looking at. We're coming down here to the arguments, different ways that you can start Emacs, and this code here, which I can't actually copy paste that in here because we don't have access. We could type the whole thing out, copy the function, and let's do that. Let's more or less just, we'll make a scratch buffer, and we'll just give it like a function name here and just kind of copy it in there. So we'll do like defun. We'll do defun. And then we'll just do my copy because this doesn't matter. We don't need it. And then we'll do interactive, which means we can grab it from metax, and we'll do with current buffer. And then of course we've got the get buffer, which is going to have a name, get buffer create, and we'll do something like whatever that is, features. It probably has to be actually specific, but we're just going to kind of roll with it here. We will then do the erase buffer. We'll add extra stuff. We'll do the insert system configuration features, which we actually want to have spelled somewhat right. Configuration features, and then we'll do the kill new and the buffer string like this, and we'll close off those, and then we'll do a message, which will say, copied our features, make it a shorter message. We don't want to have a really long message, and we'll end those things. So here what we want to do is execute my copy, and it's copied the features, and now we want to go ahead and we want to paste these features. So what we wanted to have done was have done this when we were in the minimal build. We would have seen a lot fewer features, but what we can see now is that we've actually got lots of features here, and we can't really do the things that we can normally do within Emacs from in here, like expanding the screen and the text because we have a minimal Emacs in here. But there you can see how you could get the features of your build. You could have a look at that if you wanted to have a look at that. So that's pretty much it. We've gone ahead, we've built Emacs from source in a Docker container. We built it a couple of different builds, a minimal build. You can see how Emacs searches around and looks for the dependencies that are on the system, and then it builds itself based on what it finds. And then you can see how we use those configure options to ultimately build Emacs. We started Emacs up in that Docker container, and we're pretty much good to go. So the idea here is that if you install Emacs from a package manager, you can go ahead and do that. Or you can build it from source on your computer system. But once you've got Emacs installed, the next step is figuring out where the folders are and what you need to know about those folders. Of course, you've got sort of the simple version, and then you've got more of the detailed version. We'll look at the simple version, and then you can do the detailed version if you want to kind of dial down in terms of figuring out the added complexity of using a full Emacs system. We're going to be looking at where the early init is, where the init is, and some functionality kind of gets started with Emacs. Then we're going to look at reproducible research. We're going to build a reproducible research system so that you can do reproducible research on Emacs. The key part of that system, we'll try and keep it as short as possible, but the key part of that is that we're going to use a reproducible system to arrange our configuration file, and that's going to help us to start building our Emacs system. So we're going to get you up and running with Emacs from zero to hero in just a number of quick months. And we'll get you also working on how to do your typing, on how to use Emacs, a little bit of the packages. We'll give you a full, complete configuration. We'll get you started on Emacs, which is going to 10x your productivity. So thanks for watching, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video.